So my name is Morna Gerard, and I am interviewing Janet Carson for Georgia State University's Women's March Oral History Project. The date is February 17th, 2017, and the interview is taking place in special collections at the Georgia State University Library. So Janet, I want you to start off by telling me the year that you were born and where you were born.
I was born in 1951 in Marianna, Florida, just in the Panhandle section.
And do you still live there?
I do.
So you've lived there all of your life?
Well, almost, except for the years I attended. I went to Eckerd College in St. Petersburg.
Cool.
And lived in Lake City for a little while after that, after I got married. And my daughter was born there.
And so what brings you up to Atlanta?
My daughter.
And where does she live?
She lives here on Ralph McGill in Old Fourth Ward.
And what's her name?
Karen Carson.
Okay.
She also went on the bus.
Okay. When you were growing up, were your parents, your family, politically active, or were you aware of their political leanings? Were they Republican or Democrat?
I was aware of their political leanings, not so much whether they were Republican or Democrat. In fact, I think my father was probably Republican, but that was not something we talked a lot about. It was more about the way they behaved, the way they felt, the way the things they felt strong about.
Okay. What did they feel strong?
We lived in a very, very small community. My father and mother ran a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
They had a little bit of everything. My dad ran the store. My mother was the postmistress there. And we employed a black family. The mother worked in the home helping with my brothers and I, and the son worked in the store, and they were very definitely open-minded about the civil rights problems that were taking place at that time.
Okay. Do you personally have family members who have participated in not just political activities, but like activist activities?
Not really. My daughter probably is the most politically active. I think we all have very strong feelings. My son was part of the Kerry campaign. He led a group called Drinking Liberally. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that was in Tallahassee. And
could you tell me about that?
it was just a group that met together and went door to door and things like that, but they met and drank liberally, organizing the other part. And so he did that during that time. Now he works at the House of Representatives in Tallahassee. He is part of the tech staff and cannot quite be as vocal as he once was, as they don't allow that. And so.
And is there a party that you support?
Very definitely. The Democratic.
Okay. Had you ever participated in a march before?
No. And I went through college during the years of, the Vietnam era. Kent State happened while I was in college. And there was a march taking place in St. Petersburg that I truly wanted to be involved with. My boyfriend, who later became my husband, was very concerned about his status as far as, where he stood on the lottery. And so he was hesitant to do anything, so we didn't. But I always regretted it, and I always felt like, I felt strongly about it. It's just that we didn't do anything. We did carry people down and back from the area in St. Petersburg where they marched, but I wanted to be there and I wanted to be a part of it.
So, why then did you march this year?
Partly because of that. I don't know that I ever had an opportunity to be that politically active where I am. It's a very small community, very Republican. I am a definitely very red part of Florida, and I don't get to voice my opinion very often. I was an elementary school teacher, and I could count on one hand the number of people that I could voice my opinion to on that staff. And so I felt like I had kept all of my opinions so close, and I was ready to do this. And my daughter approached me about it first when she decided she was going to do this. And at first I did not feel I could physically do it. And she kept talking about it, and I wanted to. And then at the last minute she said, "Mom, there's one seat available. Someone had canceled. Don't you want to go?" And yes, I made the commitment. I was very uncertain at the time. Very, very uncertain if I could do it physically. But she was, and I have to say, all of the people who are involved in this, this particular group that went, they were so supportive of me and helpful to me, and they wanted me to make it as much as I wanted to make it. So that was great. That was really encouraging.
Now, are you still working, or are you retired?
I have been retired. This is my second year of retirement.
Okay. What was your, most people had there was something that made them decide, yes, this is the march for me. I know your daughter, but is there an issue? Is there something come up that you're like,
oh my goodness,
this is really important?
Everything about the election really has just upset me to the point that I really felt I had to do something. And I have to understand, in the community I'm in, the friends I have, I can't even voice any of my political opinions. In fact, I've been working part-time for a Florida State reading research program where we assess children in the elementary schools there. And I needed to ask for time off. I led her to believe I was going to the inauguration. I didn't say specifically what I was doing. And so that was the part of it that I felt I've got to do something. I can't sit here every day and listen to the rhetoric and others' opinions when I feel so drastically different.
Yeah. Were there any local marches in Florida?
There was one in Tallahassee, one in Panama City. Surprised me. Now, Tallahassee, not so much, it's a university town, but Pensacola, that section from east of Tallahassee is so Republican. But there were lots of marches.
Did you know how well attended they were?
I know the Tallahassee march was well attended. The Panama City and the Pensacola marches, probably less than 500.
Okay.
But there were over 1,000 at the Tallahassee march.
Of all of the, because when people are marching, you could look around and see everyone had an issue. There was an issue that each person had that brought them to the march. Was there one particular issue that you felt strongly about, and that's why you had to be at the march?
Well, I really feel strongly about equal pay, but there are so many issues that I am involved in. My brother is gay, and he and his partner have married. They were together before they married for 25 years. So that was an issue I felt very strongly about, and I felt like the Republican Party had really zeroed in on. I felt very strongly about women's rights, equal pay, that I was a school teacher, and, you know, you don't receive the pay for that job, that, and certainly not in any way equivalent to what men get on any other job. Certainly not for the hours put in or for the work I did. So that was a part of it. Civil rights, I feel very strongly about civil rights. As I said, that was something I was introduced to early because my family felt very strongly about that. So and of course what was going on with the election. So all of the above. Yeah. I felt like, you know, this was the time. I saw something on Facebook today that was saying, if you really, really wanted to have marched or taken part of the civil rights movement, you know, now's your opportunity. And that was the way I felt, you know, now's my opportunity to express those opinions and be with people that are like-minded and just take an opportunity to do that.
Yeah. When you were looking around, what other issues did you see?
Oh my goodness, so many. There were signs for everything, and some of the signs were, I would love to have just had a picture of just the signs that people had, because they were so good. Everything from, you know, anti-Trump signs to equal pay, and certainly anti-abortion. That was the big one. And it was just that, and the chants were just so emotional. It really made you want to be there and be a part of it.
Which of the chants did you like the best?
Oh my goodness. This is what America looks like. This is what democracy looks like. That was my favorite. But then, of course, I did like get your dirty paws off under doors. I did like that too.
There was a real mixture of
highbrow
and lowbrow.
Yes. Yes, there was.
What signs did you like the best?
I saw one that was so so cute. It's one I just liked. It said, "I have concerns." That's all it said. I have concerns, which I definitely felt was just voiced it all. And then there was one that had Bernie Sanders was holding a cat, and it says, "This is the way you grab the pussy. This is the way real men grab the pussy." So those were two that were just really good.
Did you carry a sign of your own?
I did not make one. I didn't really. My decision was made on Tuesday. I left Mariana to drive to Tallahassee on Thursday, and we left Friday. So they had meetings along that time and made signs and all that, and I had nothing like that. We were given signs as we walked up the hill, anti-abortion, women's rights signs. I can't remember exactly what. And we held those, but our group had some really good ones. So,
before the march, because you didn't have much time to think about it, but what were your expectations?
I had no idea. I really did not know what to expect, other than the fact that I knew there were these 50 women that would be on the bus with us, and that we would be driving overnight, and that I certainly had no idea of the number of people. That just blew me away when we walked over the first hill after we got off of the metro. I was just astounded. I had no idea it was going to be the size that it was. And it just was so emotional to walk down that hill, and there were people everywhere, every side street, everywhere, in the trees, everywhere. And no, I had no idea it was going to be like that. I was kind of leery because the people I had spoken to, they said, "Oh, you don't want to go." My hairdresser especially. She was coming for the inauguration, and she said, "Oh, they're going to be, people, violence and all that sort of thing, and you don't want to take part in that, and aren't you afraid?" And I wasn't afraid, but I was a little anxious, but far from anything like that. It was amazing how I don't know, just united and comfortable I felt there. Everybody was there. There was nobody who was rude, nobody that was saying anything rude or dressing inappropriately. That was the other thing all these people said. Oh, there were people dressed inappropriately and did all of these things. And when I got back, you might want to say that for later, I'll tell you about that. But that was one of the things I was bombarded with, the inappropriateness of all of it. And I said, I did not see that.
Did you have a pussy hat?
Did I have
one of the hats?
Oh, most definitely. Yes, we did. I have a picture that one of the other ladies took of my daughter and I walking up the first hill from the bus. And mostly all you could see was the pink pussy hats we had on.
What did you think of that? Because I know that there were some people were saying, these pussy hats are frivolous and they're childish. And it's like, what did you see as was there some power in the wearing of them?
Yes. Well, for one, I felt like, that connected all of us. It really united all of us and our reason to be there. It was like we stood out for that. But once I got there, and they were everywhere, and, I'm an old school kind of person because I don't like to stand out or look different or anything. And I was like, oh, I don't know whether I want to wear this. But then I first put it on because all of our group was wearing them. But like I said, when I topped the hill and everybody had them on, and it was just amazing. And then it was like, oh, this just makes us more united in what we're doing. It was great.
It's like a sea of pink.
I know, it was awesome. It really was.
And pink's such a cheerful color,
I know.
You talked about people around you in your hometown being, you didn't tell them you were going?
I did not. I was a chosen few. I told my hairdresser, because I wanted to get my hair cut before we left, and I knew she was going, and I said, I'm going to Washington too, but I don't think we're going for the same purpose. And but I did not tell the people I worked with. I really didn't. They thought and were excited about me going to the inauguration, and didn't understand why I was riding all night on the bus. So were you just like kind of like
vague about it?
There. Yes. Do you have tickets? Well, no, not really. Where do you think you're going to stand? I don't know. Are you going to stay anywhere in particular? Probably on the bus. So it was as vague as I could make it.
Can you describe, you've already started talking about it a little bit, but I want you to describe the group that you went to DC with.
Oh, they were really something special in every way. And I got to know the 9 we were with. That was amazing. The people on the bus, the great part about that was that, we got on the bus and introduced ourselves and were riding down the way, and it got to be supper time, and we weren't stopping for anything, but everywhere you looked, people were handing out fruit and nuts and all kinds of things. And did you bring this? Well, I have wipes. I have this. Do you need this? Anything. It was just such a feeling on the bus. So right away, they made me feel comfortable, and I was really hesitant. because I thought, oh, I'm the old lady on this bus, but I don't think I was. I think there were people my age. I know of several. I'm not really good at telling age, but I know several that were close to my age. And then people my daughter knew really well. And then we got to know these people, the people sitting around us, and exchanged just how'd you get here, and where do you live, and things like that, and about your family. And like I said, the group we walked with and stayed together, they were just really wonderful people.
And you said there were 9 of you?
There were 9.
That's a big, because they broke up into what they called packs, didn't they?
Yes, we did. We called ours an impeach pack.
Oh, so because that's quite a lot of people to keep together.
Emily, is that her name?
Uh-huh.
That was in charge. Now, she is a friend of my daughter's. They have a mutual friend, and so my daughter knew her through this other person, and so Emily was kind of in charge of our group. But then we had such a diverse group. We had several that were like college age girls. We had Emily and a friend that she had gone to college with, that I think Keegan actually lived in San Francisco or in California. There was a young girl that I think she might have been high school age, I'm not sure. And I think that Emily was kind of taking, special care of her. And then I think Emily probably was taking special care of me too. And then there was an older woman that was probably in her late 50s. So we had quite a group, but we stayed together. It was so neat as we walked, and it was so crowded, and we were trying to get to the area where the stage was, and we would hold hands and move through the crowd. It was just great.
Did you have a plan for if you accidentally lost one another?
Well, we had thought we would be able to connect somewhat with the phone. That was not happening. And we had talked about the metro stop, that we would be sure and go there if anything happened. And so other than that, and then of course I kind of held tightly to my daughter because I was, anxious that I would get separated from her.
It would be easy to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Did you wear anything that helped you?
Yes, our group wore T-shirts and white with purple on, Atlanta, and then we had a band, that said Women's March on it, so that we could kind of recognize each other. However, once we got started, once we got on the metro, we never saw the rest of the group. Our 9 was together, but we didn't see anyone else till we got back to the bus.
Talk about the metro. How was that?
That was interesting, because it was like we were moving as one to get onto the metro, and then it's very crowded. And when we came back, that was the really interesting part, because we wanted to get back by a certain time. And we went to a, one of the station areas, and there were lines, and so we stood in that line. And I don't know if it was because it was so crowded, it must have been. They were only allowing a certain number on, and then you had to wait. So we waited for probably 30, 45, more like an hour to get on that metro. It was so interesting because everybody was, standing at the top. Nobody was pushing or shoving or anything. And we were singing. We were singing all of the, the old songs from If I Had a Hammer, This Land Is Your Land, just all of those songs. Everybody's standing quietly, waiting for the metro to get less crowded and we could get on. So that was really special.
Now, when you do you remember which metro stop you got off at to get to the march? It's okay if you don't remember.
No, I don't think I do.
I don't remember mine either. But do you?
If I heard it, I probably wouldn't remember.
Can you talk about, like, you get off the metro and then you look around? What's going on as you're walking towards?
We
the
walked.
march?
It was kind of like up a hill, and there were, I guess there were like greeters. I'm not exactly sure what you would call them, but people probably from that area that were involved in the organization, and they were urging you on, encouraging you, handing out signs, and it was just so interesting because as we got there, they're so proud you came, so glad you came. Didn't know these people, and it was like going to Walmart and having the greeters, welcome to Walmart. But they wanted to shake your hand. They wanted to tell you. And then when we got back to where our buses were, the people were lined on the street, and so emotional because then there was this one man. I want to shake your hand. I want to shake your hand. A black man. I can't tell you how proud I am that you people came. Blew me away. I didn't know how to take that, but
that's great.
Wasn't expecting that.
No. When you looked around at the crowd, what did all these other marchers look like to you?
Every color, every background. There were poor people, but there were definitely some people that were well-to-do. You could see by the way they were dressed and who they were with. A lot of college kids, but then a lot of older people. A lot of people my age that I felt like, okay, these people have marched before and they know all about this. And it was just a little bit of everything. The babies, children, that amazed me. Children everywhere. And that was one point when I got back, I wanted to make so strongly to these people who told me there was going to be violence. They said, but why would they take children? Why would they have children there? I said, I think it was because they wanted their children to understand. And if you grow up understanding, you can, you won't have the problems that we're facing now.
As the chant goes, this is what democracy looks like.
Oh, I know. That was the perfect way to say it.
Oh, yeah. When you're in the march, can you remember how you were feeling?
Emotional. On the verge of tears most of the time. And just starry-eyed. I was just, like I said, I was just so totally blown away by the numbers, by the diversity, and the acceptance. It was, I can remember, it's just like my heart felt so about to burst almost because I was so excited and so, I don't know, just filled me up with a hope. I guess that's the one thing too. I felt, there's a chance here. We might be able to do something. This many people, this strong a voice, we might be able to change some things.
Because they thought there'd be like a couple of 100,000 people
Yes.
there. Were you aware when you kind of got to the top of the hill and you looked down, where you're like, wow, I think there's more
I
than
think there's a
200.
lot more, yes. And we spoke to a policeman that said this crowd is much bigger than they had expected. And then, but
Well,
they were there, but they were on their little bikes, and we saw maybe once the whole time.
I was going to say, like, how was your interaction with the police officers?
Oh, there were one part of the march. There were people that had like drums. They were not real drums. I don't know what they were. Just like you might see in the streets of New York where somebody's playing on a pot or a pan. They were like that, but they were kind of made you want to march like in a band. And the policemen were there, and I don't know whether they were anticipating something or what, but they were standing to the side, and as we marched, they just kind of backed back, and then let everybody go by, and nobody was nasty, and everybody. The one guy he just said, "This is a really big crowd." I said, "Were you expecting this?" And no, we were not.
I don't think anyone was.
No.
Did you see any protesters?
No, I did not. Now, somebody said, well, there were times when we were marching, there were people sitting on the side, but I did not feel like they were protesting. I did not. I felt like they were involved, but they didn't want to necessarily march. And pictures of people sitting on the steps of the buildings there, and close to where the stage was. They were all over the side of the building and in the trees, but I never saw any signs that were protesting against. If they were there, I didn't see them.
Yeah. So you were talking about the stage. Did you get near the stage at all?
I don't know the streets or anything like that, but as we came down the street, where the Native American, they were chanting, and we went down that street. We could see a huge, I guess it was a stage, but like a big screen that was up at the end of that street.
I know where you're talking
And we were at the very end of that. And we fought to get down there, but as you got closer, it was just, and we could see people on that big screen, but we couldn't hear any of that. So,
did that bother you?
I didn't hear any of that till we got back and we listened to it.
Well, when you did get to hear some of the speeches, were there any that stood out as being, like your favorites, or ones that you're like, I wish they hadn't said that, or?
Well, there were some things that Madonna said that I thought were a little out there, but she's out there. I was not surprised coming from her. I really liked Ashley Judd's speech. I thought she did a good job. I mainly just heard those two. And of course, Michael Moore. I like him.
Throughout the day, how did you, because a lot of advice was like, stay hydrated but not too hydrated, make sure you have some snacks. How did you get along with all of that?
I had a rough time with that, and because I was not really fond of using the porta potties, and there were such huge lines. My daughter went to use one of them, had to wait probably 45 minutes. So I just didn't drink much, and I know I should have, but that was very bad for me, and I paid for that physically since I came back. But I just tried not to drink much or eat much. We had some like energy bars that we ate, and like maybe one bottle of water that we had. Started out with more than that, but I don't know. Others needed it, and we just passed it on.
Did you feel like you were appropriately dressed for the?
I never even thought about it.
Were you warm enough?
Yes, no problem with the warmth, and I can't remember what I wore. I think I wore blue jeans. I'm pretty sure it was blue jeans, but I really didn't even think about it. Art had a sweater on, but I get hot when I walk. And so,
were your shoes comfortable?
I had my tennis shoes. I was fine.
Cool.
I did find a couple of times, found a place to sit. I needed to sit. we sat at one place. I don't know. It was a museum, I'm pretty sure. It was kind of neat because a lot of people were sitting up against the wall of that. We met professor and his wife that had come down from Boston, which was really surprising to me. They had come down from Boston, and then Boston had a huge march also. But they were very nice, and sat and talked to them for a while and recovered.
Yeah. And Ben, you actually did the march all the way to the White House?
We did not get all the way to the White House. I think we got further than a lot of the other people that were marching. We walked down the street. Again, I cannot tell you the streets or anything. The Washington Monument was to the left, and we walked all the way down that street. And I don't know how far we were from the White House. We stopped mainly because of our time. We knew we were afraid we would not make it. But then we heard others that were, when we got back on the bus, that had not stayed with it that long, had not, they'd stopped and gone to the restaurants or something. We did not do that. We marched all the way.
And,
together.
And how were you feeling physically?
I was tired, but what was kind of neat was I was feeling pretty bad, but we would get to walking, and there was one lady, Ellie, I think her name was, she'd start chanting, and then we'd start chanting, and then I'd feel better. I'd get excited and feel better, and it would, go away for a while. I would not think about how bad I hurt or what my feet felt like.
How was it chanting? Because it's not something that
not
we do
I would
very
normally
often.
do. No, it was neat because, oh my goodness, especially this is what democracy looks like. Oh my heavens, everybody around us, everybody was chanting, and that it just felt so good. Felt like you know how when there's a marching band and that feeling of the drum beating inside of you, that's the way it felt. It felt like it was so much, it was just a part of you. I don't know if I'm saying that very well, but
no,
maybe you understand what I mean.
I understand completely what you meant. Are there any moments that stand out to you as being, like these are the moments that you have vivid memories of?
Somebody was injured or hurt or something, and they had to get an ambulance to them, and the crowd just moved away. It was like, okay, this is the parting of the sea, Everybody just moved out of the way, and never said anything, or that was touching to me that that everybody realized we needed to get help to that person, and everybody was just so willing to do it. Yeah. And like I said, the other thing with the children was so amazing. We sat, again, I'm not sure where it was, but we were sitting in the grass out in front of the porta potties, and there were a couple of families that had little ones like toddlers walking around, and they just walked from group to group, and everybody would play with them, and so that was another moment that I loved. I thought that was so neat that they weren't afraid to let their children just walk up to these people.
Yeah. Now, you already said that it was quite emotional for you. Mm-hmm. What moments made you feel most emotional?
The chant, when we were chanting, and the Washington Monument, and like I said, when we came over that hill and saw all those people, those were like took my breath away. It was just so emotional. And to look over and see the Washington Monument and people all up that hill, that was, I've been there several times, not many times, but several times, but no one on that hill. Even went to a concert there one 4th of July, nowhere near the crowd that was on that hill. So those were emotional moments.
How did you feel about the media coverage of the march?
I felt it was downplayed. It was as if they were afraid to make too much of it because it was so overshadowing the inauguration. And it was almost as if the media felt like, well, I need to report this, but, I had no idea until we got home and they started to show other places, other countries where marches. Now that was a moment that really was emotional. Then you felt like you were really a part of something. But I did not feel like the media was covering that well until, I guess, afterwards. And I don't know, it was almost as if they were kind of hesitant at first. And then they realized it was such a big deal. It was really a big deal. It wasn't just a big deal in our country, it was a big deal everywhere.
So can you describe the mood on the way home when you were back on the bus again?
Everybody was exhausted, but we had gone through a lot together, so people were sharing all of the different things that they had done and things they had seen, and we got to know each other better. It was much more at ease then. I mean, it was fun at first even, but this was more like, okay, this is all family, and we're all going to sit here and talk about what we've done and be together.
Did you get a chance to sleep on the way home?
Did I?
Did you sleep on the bus?
Not really. I slept more on the way up. I was surprised, but we probably slept a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours. On the way back, I couldn't get comfortable. I have a lot of problems with my body. I've been in 2 car accidents, and I have pins everywhere. And my back, I was like, okay, I can't find a place to put my leg that or sit in a way that I could be comfortable. You can probably understand that. So that was the harder part.
You must have been really glad once you got back to Atlanta to
Yes.
just get comfortable.
My daughter had scheduled a massage for me. So we got back, about 7:30, 8 o'clock that morning, and I had a massage about 2 o'clock that afternoon. Ah, heaven. I was
great.
much in need of it at that point.
Now, other than being relieved to have the massage the day after, how were you feeling emotionally about everything?
Well, it was funny because I thought, okay, we'll go home and just go to sleep. But you're so keyed up, you can't go to sleep. And what I did do, I sat down with my daughter and we talked about things I didn't want to forget, things I wanted to, her kind of validation of, and so we did that and kind of wrote a little bit. She typed it up and we just kind of wrote a little bit just to remember things.
That's a great idea.
Because, so much happened in such a short amount of time, and I was like, I don't want to forget this. I don't want to forget, the way we did and the things we said, and so we did do that afternoon.
I wish I'd done that. Tell me about when you went back to your hometown.
Well, I went back to work, and so they wanted to know about the inauguration, which I could not tell them about. I said, I don't know about that, but I can tell you about the Women's March. And so that was when I was getting all of the almost confrontation. Well, we know there were people there. They kept saying, we know there were women there that had no shirts on, that they were braless. I said, where? where did you see that? Well, it was everywhere on the news. And no, I didn't see any woman that didn't have her clothes on. Didn't see women that had things written on. That's what I kept hearing that. And did you hear people shouting nasty things? No, I did not hear people shouting nasty things. And wearing vagina hats. I said, well, I don't know whether you consider my pussy hat a vagina hat. But oh, yes, it was all over I don't know what they were watching, but I didn't see that. And then, they were like, well, what did you think? And I kept telling them about the parts, like I shared with you, the children. Why would anybody take children there? I got that over and over and over again. And, weren't you afraid? No, I was not afraid. It was crazy. And it's kind of changed my way of thinking. I had been considering moving anyhow. I've lived and worked here all my life, and my family was originally from there, but all of my family has moved from there. And I kind of started questioning, are these the people I want to be around that are going to judge me by one thing I did or said? That has really brought me to a point that I'm going to have to make a decision about what I'm going to do.
Well, and it must have been hard to have been in an environment that was so loving and so understanding of you and of everyone,
mm-hmm.
to then feel isolated.
Yes, and go back to people I thought were friends who were judging me in a way like, saying I was crazy to have done something like that. Bothered me. I was never very vocal about my politics. I felt strongly, but I wasn't vocal. And I wasn't vocal when I got back, in that I wasn't, making statements about I hate Trump or anything like that. I was just sharing what had happened. But I got a lot of hostility. So it kind of make me think twice about whether I want to stay in this area or not.
Where would you move to if you were to move?
I don't know whether I have a brother that lives in Asheville, and that's really a nice area, a lot to offer to retirees. And then my daughter's here, and I like Atlanta, I really do. And my son's in Tallahassee, so I can go that way. Love to go to the beach, but I don't know whether I can afford that. But
you have some options.
Yes.
Yeah, but it must be. It's like when you feel like you can, you even if you're not vocal about your politics, just feeling like you have to be quiet is like that's.
Yes, it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating. Like in the times I've worked, in that environment. Like I said, there were maybe 3 people that I could really, really say, don't you think this is horrible? Or, and they felt the same way I did. But then you didn't feel comfortable. You really didn't. And it was kind of scary to be too vocal. You have to realize we are in the big time South Bible Belt.
So in the sort of the days and weeks since the march,
Mm-hmm.
how have you been feeling? How have you processed it all?
I said well, I get up daily wondering what kind of disaster is going to happen today, but as I said, I felt like, okay, the march. I feel like people are much more empowered, and that the march was part of that. That really gave not just to women but to everybody a little bit more of a voice than they maybe. I know some people that they really didn't like Trump, but they were Republicans and they were going to vote, but I think a lot of those people that were fence sitters have really changed their mind and been more vocal now than they were before.
Are you being involved? Well, I guess it's very difficult where you are. I was going to say, have you been involved in anything since you got back?
No. No, I have not. I have, like I said, my children have definitely feel the same way I do, and you're going to laugh at this, but I, I've never been one to post anything on Facebook or put anything out there like that, and I have been much more aggressive about doing that, and liking things that are definitely democratic and women's rights and things than I've ever done before. I figured I'm going to burn these bridges. I don't care. I'm ready to move on.
Now, what are your hopes for what might happen in the next year, 2 years, 4 years?
I just don't want us to go back to I saw something on TV that a Republican had said today that this is the new normal. And I don't want us to feel like this is the new normal. I don't want us to forget that we can work together and make a change, and forget what it was like when Obama was president and I felt secure. I don't feel secure right now, and I don't want people to forget that we can stand together. We can do what we have to do to impeach or whatever needs to be done, but I feel like the people can stand together and make a difference. I think we have. I like the fact that the protests have not really stopped. There's still protests, and there's still people that are, what is that, indivisible? Mm-hmm. That people are working through that, and on the way back on the bus, we all were talking about, I think Michael Moore had talked about all the things that you can do about call your congressman and do this on Monday, do this on Tuesday. And I think that has been something I really feel strongly about, that we can make a difference when you flood your congressman's office with phone calls and protests, and they can't ignore the fact that this is not how most people feel. That's what I'm hoping anyhow, that sense.
Yeah.
We'll stay together.
What's your biggest fear?
Oh my goodness. I'm amazed because my biggest fear, I think, has already come true. And I just, every day, I'm scared we're going to end up in a situation. We've already ended up in a situation where we're the laughingstock of the world, but end up in a situation that we're involved in that will bring about war, or more war. That's scary.
Would you plan, because there's going to be more marches, would you come back up to Atlanta and take part?
Yes, I would.
Have you started talking to your daughter about?
Yes, we have. And she's really gotten more active.
Yeah.
She's making some decisions about her job and everything, but she has really got more involved this year. I think this has been a year that has changed our lives.
I think
really.
A lot of people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any because there's like in April, I think there's 3 marches.
I know. I saw a day that without women or something.
Yeah, that's like in a couple of weeks' time.
Mm-hmm.
There's that, and there's a march for science and one for his
see,
taxes.
that was the other thing that really made a difference. I taught science in elementary school, but I taught science, and that's a thing that makes such a difference to me on a day-to-day basis. But one of the signs, can't remember, that was talking about, science is real or something. I think that was what it was. That got to me, and that scares me to deny that we have all these problems, climate, that things are not truly happening when they're happening. How can you deny that? I'm a big fan of Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah. That always astonishes me that people can you can see the facts, but you just pretend that they're not.
I know. We have a whole different alternative facts, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. So do you think that the movement will maintain momentum?
I do. I really do. And every day I keep seeing all these things that are being introduced, bills that are being introduced that are just so off the wall crazy. How a woman's body is not her own, that it's just a host. How can we let something like that by? I think we've got to continue.
Yeah. Were there any parts of the march that surprised you? You had expectations, and then there's was there anything that just kind of wow, I didn't expect this to happen?
It all surprised me. I cannot tell you. I don't know what I thought, but I didn't realize that there were going to be speakers. One or two, but I didn't realize that we're going to be celebrities and all these other people. I didn't realize that there would be, like I said, people of all ages. Those were just totally shocking things to me. And I don't know, the whole thing blew me away. It did. I did. You have to understand, I come from a very small town. And it's not that I haven't traveled and seen things, but this was probably the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. I think even if you lived in New York and you were in crowds all the time, it still would have been something you've never seen before.
Right.
So what do you think about the current administration's activities since the march?
I think each day he's trying to outdo the day before. I know they feel that they're trying to stick to their promises and that they have made all of these promises, but I don't think he has a clue how to make these changes. And the way that he's going about it scares me, because I don't feel like he's prepared. He's just not aware, and doesn't seem to want to make himself aware of how much each thing he does, what a difference it can make all over the place. It bothers me that he's not aware. As they say, he's clueless.
For all of these people, there's a lot of anxious people. Can you suggest maybe some strategies for us all? How do we cope with all this anxiety and worry, and how do we move forward?
Hey, I do a lot right now to try to stay positive, and my daughter and I've been working through this. There's something called Shine, a little app that I have on my phone that is very positive statements and suggestions every day. I listen to that. I try not to watch TV too much because I get really anxious. And I just feel like we've got to stay in touch with people. Like I said, that's the thing that bothers me. Stay in touch with those people that are going to think the same way I do, because it's such negativity where I am, and we've got to make the effort to stay in touch with others and work together, and try to do as Michael Moore suggested, stay active. Even our little phone calls make a big difference.
Every single one. I have one last question. If there's people who are planning to go to a march in DC in the next few months, what piece of advice would you give them?
Go. Be a part of it. You'll never regret it. It makes such a difference in their lives. And for some of these people who are so close-minded, if they could just make the effort and open up just a little bit, make us such a difference.
It's a good idea. Now, is there anything that you would like to say that you haven't said so far?
No. We've come a long way. I will say this. I grew up, went to college in the 60s, and that was the time of, we thought we could change the world. And it's like we became complacent and allowed these things to happen, and I want to get back that feeling that we can really change things, and this helped me to feel that. It made me feel like, okay, we've not totally screwed everything up. Maybe we can do something to bring it back.
Yeah. Well, thank you very, very much for being
You're welcome
interviewed.
very, very much. I enjoyed it.